Welcome. Happy Friday. Welcome to the Rick Helps Real Estate Show with Pat. What's my rate, McMasters, and my effervescent and charming broker, Jessica. How are you?
What are you doing?
Awesome.
That's better than mean and controlling, isn't it?
It is. It is.
I do like to do that. So I want to announce to everybody that we are the award-winning real estate show on YouTube. We got the trophy right here. Best real estate show on YouTube. And, just to be in full transparency, I found that at a Goodwill. And sure, I made a couple of adjustments on it, but it is, and I awarded it to myself. So, but it's there. So,
Well deserved.
yes, I think so.
But now we're starting to sound like the Emmys and the Grammys or whatever, where we start patting ourselves on the back,
Yeah.
congratulating how great we are.
How many award shows those guys have? I mean,
It
it's
seems like there's one every other month.
yeah, half their year they're putting on a tuxedo and getting the trophy. I mean, Dick Van Dyke got a trophy for a guest appearance on a daytime show. It's like, really? Maybe I should go. Now, I'm waiting for my son, his company, to get. He's with Stupid Buddy Studios, and they've made it to almost the nomination process. And I keep waiting for those guys to get nominated for an Emmy so I can watch it from afar. It's way too hot to be having this much fun. It is, but the heat affects all of us in different ways. So I thought today, we're going to roll back the Wayback Machine a little bit, but keep seeing more and more headlines of listings are up. And I don't know. I'm not seeing it. They're not feeling it. I mean, they're up when compared to last year, but that's not an alarming rise in listings, active listings. In fact, they've come down just a little bit this week. If I put our little ticker up here, you can see that we have 18,036 listings. So it's up by about 300 versus last week. That's not an alarming rate, is it?
Nope, not at all.
The listings under contract, though, the Cromford report came out with this morning. I'll show it and read it to you guys. They said, at no point so far in 2024 has the count managed to claw its way above the miserable totals for 2023. And he goes on to say, now 2007 was an awful year with the market stalled, and he's comparing it, that's the black line down below, by the certain knowledge that house prices were about to collapse. We're not in that situation in 2024, but buyer enthusiasm for resale homes is still very low indeed. To put 8,238 into perspective, the total for weeks 23 of 2011 was well over 21,000. So he goes on to say that if we do get a significant rate drop, that things will change. But he did mention 2011. Now, here's listings under contract. There's 2011. If you compare us there, we had 21,000. But Pat, you'll remember that when we were talking about listings when they were really low and they were coming up, remember when they went up 75% and people were going, oh, my listings are up 75%. Here comes the crash.
Yep.
And I said,
that.
Good. I hope they go up 300% because that's where they need to be normal. I mean, Jessica, we had 4,800 listings. You go up 75%, that's still a large percentage of a small number. And we're sitting here at 18,000. That's still a far cry from normal, which used to be 24,000. So there's nothing alarming. I welcome this. There's nothing alarming about it. Are you seeing it affect anything in the business at all?
I personally am not. That summers have always had I call them sleepy summers out here in Phoenix. When it gets hot, a lot of people are going to crawl into cooler spaces, and that's kind of normal. Travel, kids out of school, people are vacationing. So it seems more normal activity. If you look at the numbers, and the numbers aren't saying anything different, and the activity is reflecting that everything's fairly normal. It's very consistent. I do agree. If interest rates do something, though, it's gonna spark. 'Cause that's the only comment I keep hearing. We're waiting for interest rates. We're waiting for interest rates, and that's
Yeah,
not true
yeah,
either.
yeah,
That's not true
and Pat's not doing a damn thing about it. So
either.
now I'm going to push back on the summer thing for just a minute, because I see it on Facebook all day. Oh, my listings are slow. Well, it's summer. Well, it's hot. It was hot last year too, and so you can see compared to last year, we're below, not by much. So we are below last year. Last year, pending listings were 5,400. Today, they're 4,900. So in the broad scheme of things, only 500 homes. But for listings now, putting them on the market, you can't just slide by and put them on the MLS, not do anything else. So you've got to, the postcards need to come back. The door knocking with the neighbors, the advertising on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. You've got to kick it up a notch. The interesting one that I saw here is, I'm waiting for it to refresh just a hair, is contract ratios. And they're way down to 47.9, which is, lower than what it's been for quite some time. And my red pen would decide not to work. So there's where we're at in the contract ratio. So it's not doom and gloom, but it's just slower. Nobody's used to it. This one is average price per square foot. Now, get my handy dandy magnifying glass out here, get it going, and it doesn't want to work. Well, there it is. $373 is the average price per square foot. Notice how it's gone down. In the beginning of the year, it was $368. So we're almost right there. But that's in total. Watch this. If I remove all the cities and I just add, let me pick one here. Let's pick, Mesa has their pricing. Theirs actually kind of went down a little bit, and it's itching back up, 259. So it's kind of a city by city thing. Some of them, you're Gilbert, right?
Yeah, do Gilbert.
Okay.
Yeah, that one.
Check this one out. So Gilbert now, it kind of spiked up, but we're 326 versus 326. So the list price has gone back to where it was in January. It peaked here at 348. But every city has a different way of showing the difference on the list pricing. So I'm seeing just about every number I look at is down, except, watch this. This will be my last chart I'm going to show you here. And that is my 7-day moving average. They're both down. New listings are down and new contracts are down. But the difference between the two is still 74%. So everything's slower, but yet we're still moving homes. Now, I'm not trying to be overly optimistic. I'm just saying that's what I see. And that's what it feels like out there, right?
Yep.
Exactly.
And we got a little bit of break on mortgage rates this week. Pat made a couple calls. And so the CPI number came in better. There's a lot to question about it. It's so funny how they measure it. The jobs numbers, I mean, the heck with that. So what happened, Pat?
Yeah, the job numbers. I mean, I've seen many TV pundits. Matter of fact, I can't remember. It was a Fox Business News. A couple of experts or analysts were on there saying how really we have such a just a disparity in numbers from household to business surveys and the jobs that you always have the revisions. So those numbers are just getting more muted every month. It seems like we Wednesday we had the CPI come out. Core came in at 0.2, but after you dialed in, that was a rounded up number. It was 0.0163. So if you analyze that number out, you'd actually have the Federal Reserve target at 2%. And the problem is, the average guy, I mean, it's just at 2%, inflation's at 3%. Really, quite frankly, we all know the real inflation number is probably 15 to 18+%. When you dial into the day-to-day goods. But the bond market, there was a lot of people out there on Facebook, mortgage guys in the Facebook world, that were just totally freaking out about Wednesday and Thursday. Thursday, we had the other numbers come out. As far as I think there was a number that came out. I'm getting all my numbers confused here, actually. But, the CPI was the biggest thing. But as you can see here, this is the 1 month 5.5% coupon right here. This is the range it started in, and here we are right now after 1 month. We had these are prices. So as prices go down, rates go up. We had this period from May 15th to May 29th, a 2-week period where rates were going up. Then we saw another 2-week period, or about a week and a half, where we saw rates improve. They got worse, and then they got better. So within a month, but then you take all that in consideration, we're pretty much kind of almost at the same level as we are, a month ago. And you stretch it out. This is what I'm talking about. Obviously, when people are buying a home and they're locking for 30 days, you see these periods in here where rates are going up. You got this period from March 28th to April 16th. It just seems to me like you always have these 2 or 3 week periods where they improve for 2 weeks and they get crappy for 2 or 3 weeks. So you have to kind of be cognizant of that when you're locking. You could save a couple $1,000s on a different, rate lock. So, but it's been kind of a muted point. Like you said, this is going back 3 months. If you look at 3 months here, the difference in rates, they'll move week to week, periods of time. But if you look at the overall 3-month period, here we were 3 months ago, here we are today. And look at the volatility in between. So it just goes to tell you how, people don't realize. People can call on Monday, they don't check rates till Friday, and they're like, oh, rates didn't move, but they did, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they moved, but then they move back up again. It's just crazy how, you can have a crazy party in between Monday and Friday, but then Monday and Friday look like nothing happened. But I'm starting to see, I think overall, just in terms of the homes, my general take on things is that, and this is the 10-year treasury where we're at right now. This is the last 5 years where we saw the low. This is kind of where we've been in here this last couple of years. It just seems as though people are kind of settling in and realizing, hey, 6.5%, 7%. At least we talk about this several times. They're at least stable. They're not where people want to be, but at least people can make a decision from today to 30 days from now, kind of where they're going to be at, whether they're going to buy or sell a home. And I think that has the positive of all this stuff is that it's somewhat of a calming effect. At least, people are waiting. Once again, like we talked about a couple minutes ago, people are waiting for rates to go down. But once again, Jessica and Rick, you probably would agree that if rates do go down into the high 5s, low 6s, mid 6s, you're going to have bidding wars.
Yeah, Jessica, you mentioned that your clients are saying, well, I'm still waiting. Do you have an idea kind of what their anticipation is or what their break point is? And
let me go back because I guess I was applying to just the slow market. We have plenty of buyers that are active, very active. I'm just as busy this week as I've been in May as I was in January. So to apply it to kind of the pipeline of buyers that are casually still looking, when you talk to them on my weekly phone calls of, hey, how we doing? How's life? What are we thinking? And it's, well, what have interest rates done? Well, chime in on Friday because we're going to tell you they're about the same. And that's, so I think it's that sense that it's the payment sensitivity that a lot of us have not been used to in the last, we've been in real estate 5, 10, 20 years. So for me, 6% is normal. So we're in a very normal, very stable market. I feel very confident sitting down with buyers and telling them, do you need to wait because of the payment sensitivity, or is it just that you're not ready to own a home? There's lots of factors that go into that. So I didn't really answer your question specifically. What are they waiting for? I think it's just the shock of that change and the emotional reality of what their payment looks like, not necessarily home ownership in general.
Yeah, and I talked about that earlier in the week where I said, that you're the only one that knows as a buyer what your payment tolerance is. So don't be, because now you're going to start hearing, well, here go rates are coming down. So go ahead and marry the house, date the rate. Well, don't stretch yourself. If you have a budget and you say, I want my payment to be this, then have the discipline to stay there. Because there's so much regret from buyers that said, well, I let my agent or my lender talk me into a higher rate. Well, did you really let them, or did they just say this option was out there and you went beyond your comfort zone and grabbed it? Now I say that saying that, there are agents that go, look, kick it up a notch. Don't worry, you can refinance later. And that's, dangerous talk, I think, in my world. But I think as a buyer, you're the only one that has control over that.
Yeah.
And Pat, you see it all the time. People, they sit down at the kitchen table. Here's what we can afford. Let's go get something. And somehow you get in the car and you look at that house and go, this other one's so much nicer. Maybe we can afford to go up to that higher payment. Like the video I came out with earlier in the week of the buyer regrets, and they bought waiting for refinancing, and he goes, now we're stuck. And I'm thinking, well, you're not really stuck. I mean, you'll eventually be able to refinance, so you're not totally stuck. And on one video that I had that came out, I was getting beat up very hard. And all baby boomers were, you baby boomers did this. You baby boomers are greedy. You baby boomers ran up the price of houses. And I thought, I was just a young guy, got married, got a house, started a family. I don't remember going to the price fixing meetings.
Well, it comes down to, pure supply demand. And, the last couple of months I've been reading these articles. I don't know if this is true or not, but I saw it, I don't know if it's fake news or not, but I saw an article that Robert Kiyosaki, that Rich Dad, Poor Dad guy. Have you seen this? I sent you that article, Rick. I don't know if it's true or not, but the article said he owns 15,000 homes.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know about you, but, this is one way we could really combat the supply demand. There's, I think there's certain things that we could do and it boils down to supply and demand. I mean, we could talk about rates. We could talk about this or that. Prices have gone up. It's pure supply demand. We've got still, like Jessica said, there are a lot of buyers. There's a big swath of shadow buyers out there looking to buy. But I think there are several things that they really could do to batten down this, to work with the supply demand. One thing is, does a guy like Robert Kiyosaki really, they should limit him. I mean, I'm sorry, but I know I'm talking about it's a non-capitalistic society. I'm talking about non-capitalistic idea, almost kind of, whatever kind of idea it is. But for some individual to own 15,000 homes, I mean,
well, I'm kind of measured on that response. I don't know if, I'm kind of measured on that because, me, it's like,
well,
we're here to help. Careful.
Well,
careful.
I mean, I think Robert Kiyosaki, but also I'm talking about, when I say about him, I'm talking about like the Black Rocks of the world, the institutions. I mean, I'm starting to be, the more I read these articles, I really start to believe that, a home is definitely a different asset class than a stock and bond. Yes, it's an investable asset, but once again, I said a couple months ago, you can't live in a stock or bond. So, I mean, a home is a different type of asset class that I think they could curtail these institutions from, taking control.
Well, we talked about inflation a little bit earlier. When I first broke out, not when I broke out on my own, but when I moved to Seattle, I was, I think it was 23, maybe 24. And you could not sign a 1-year lease anywhere. I was going to these apartments and looking for a place, and I got a studio apartment, and I got a 9-month lease because they wanted to be able to raise the rent every 6 months. So if you got a 9-month lease, you were really lucky. You go and say, well, I'd like to live here. I'd like a 1-year lease. Oh, we're not offering those right now. And that was 1976, 77. And so you just couldn't get it. So you're going through every 9 months, you had to either re-up your lease or move, and your rent went up, and food was going up incredibly fast, and just like it is today. And so I eventually got in and purchased a condo for 34,000. And I thought, okay, here we go. I'm going to be able to stair step into a home. Well, the market in the 80s just went south. My $34,000 condo was now worth like 27. And I was just crying that it was so unfair and it was awful and it was terrible. And I hung on to that sucker for 10 years before I could unload it. I eventually got into a house, got a really stupid loan, but I was able to refinance it and lived there for I don't know how many years and made money on it, and moved to Southern California with my wife and 2 little kiddos. Got a house in Southern California, paid $212,000 for it. Got a job offer with the same company to Albany, New York, and I sold that house for $150,000. That's taking a bath.
Yeah.
Got out to Albany. Now I couldn't blame it on anybody. It was a defense contractors. And I remember kids that I was going to church with, and they were saying, we'll never get to buy a house. And I said, well, hang in there. Your turn's coming. And sure enough, it swung around, and they were easily able to afford it. The $150,000 house that I sold now is probably $900,000. But then I got to Albany, and I got this nice house, and only stayed there a year, just in time for the new governor to lay off everybody at the state. And so that house went down in value. I moved to Rochester, New York, just in time to watch everybody get laid off at Kodak. So I've had plenty of hits along the side of the head until I came to Phoenix, and it finally worked its way out. So when I get told you baby boomers are greedy and they're running up the price of houses, I guess I'm not feeling it.
Yep.
So we are seeing some price changes like per week now, starting to go up a little bit here. You can see, but that's more of, again, just a slow market, and people kind of thought they could get more for their homes, and they're not. But we're not seeing a very big percentage of homes getting offers above their list price. It's only 17% now, which is kind of about, I guess I hesitate to use the word normal, but not alarming.
Yep.
So not too much going on out there. Now, there isn't any really. Is there more economic news coming out next week, Pat, that we should be watching for?
It's just basic stuff. It's nothing crazy like builder numbers and like that. I'm kind of, the prognosis is basically rates are going to kind of sit flat here because the next round of numbers is not till next month. The CPI numbers, the job numbers. So for next 2 to 3 weeks, it's going to be pretty benign for the most part. I think we're just going to be sitting in this range. This right now. I mean, if you look at it, just pull up my chart. This one lender, this is basically 5% down, $475,000 purchase price, 780 FICO score. This is a scenario that I've been kind of using. Right now we're 699 is a let's see here. I can blow it up a little bit. 699 is, cost of $500. Then to go to 6.87 is $2,300. If rates improve, I think we'll get into the high, consistently into the 6 3/4, 6. This is for 5% down. Like I said, it depends on your scenario, your credit score, loan program. This is just a general conventional loan. I think if rates improve, it's going to take some time for them. We're looking at a discount of 1.23 here for the mid sixes. The market would have to really improve pretty strong here the next month or two for it to get into the mid 6 range. So I think we're going to be in the high 6s, low 7s here. Nothing has really dramatic to make anything, make a push in any way, shape, or form.
Well, did you see when the press conference with Chairman Powell, he was directly asked about housing, and he basically just said, my hands are tied. It's all about supply. In other words, he says,
Yeah.
yes, house prices are going up. He basically said, but there's nothing I can do about it. I mean, he can, but he's going to crush the rest of the economy if he does. So he kind of threw up his hands.
Well, you
So-
remember, a couple of years ago, he was talking about how they wanted to do something about the, housing supply. If they could direct it, if they could, use interest rates to influence it. And you and I were like, you're smoking something that we're not smoking. There's no way. So
we got a comment here. Bunch of new construction going on in West Phoenix, Buckeye, Goodyear, Avondale, Surprise. Extremely competitive pricings. Price cuts as well. Do you think price cuts will go down? Prices will go down further? Jessica, what do you think?
No, I think they'll cut incentives before they touch prices. And that's what
Yep. I have one come across my email, $54,000 in incentives.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah, they're gonna keep the prices up as long as they possibly can, and that makes the most sense from the builder's perspective, as well as the rest of the neighbors and other communities. They want to drive those prices up, but I think but incentives are in the East Valley. They're staying the same: limited closing costs, minimal commission to agents. So it's stayed pretty consistent. And the one builder I popped into a couple of weeks ago, they had, I think, 3 sales the Memorial Day weekend, 1 sale after, and he was back up to 3 sales this last weekend. So I was waiting for the news. I'm like, are you down? Did you not sell anything? And he said, no, we're back up again. And it's the same incentives that they've had for the last month. So that they're not having to make any changes right now. They're still selling houses.
Well, and that differs from the guys that fly into town and come around and do boots on the ground and say, we have too many houses for sale and they're not moving. Not one of them, not picking on one guy, ever walked into an office and said, hey, are you selling anything? Just going around after all the people that are building houses went home and just made an assumption. And it's the same way with inventory right now. Look, if inventory spikes up, I've said that if where we were at, the sales were about 3,200 a week, right? And I had said, if you see a sudden spike to 19,000, then that's a problem. So there's going to be price cuts after that. But this slow march of 100 homes on the way up is not that sudden spike that we're starting to see with people talking on YouTube. And again, that's a big percentage of the small numbers, still a small number. I'm just not seeing it. Even in the Cromford report, when they say that our listings are up, every time I read that, I go in and look and go, yeah, by 100.
yeah.
And anecdotally, friends say, I can't believe how many houses are for sale in my neighborhood. Can you believe that? Well, when you've got the past 3 years where nobody's had a house for sale, all of a sudden when 2 signs go up on your street, you're like, uh-oh, what's going on?
Yep.
And we're seeing a lot longer close of escrows. So that's something that's not normal. We're taking contingencies, other people selling homes. You have to be a little more creative right now. So I think our actual contract closing period is, through COVID, it was after COVID, you had to close as quick as possible. We were seeing 15, 20, 30 days. That's not normal. Normal closings, 30, 45, 60 days. There's a lot. So a sign sitting in a yard for 90 days is not unreasonable.
But it's all based on where we were, and people feel like it is now.
Mm-hmm.
I know there's a street in Sun Lake's got 3 homes up for sale, and they're connected. They're these I don't want to call them patio homes, but one of them, from my understanding, hasn't been remodeled at all, and she's asking way too much, like $650. The one next door is just all done, soup to nuts, looked great. They had somebody come in and write an offer on a contingency, and that one ended up falling through, so it's still on the market. And the other one I don't know anything about, but that whole block is talking like, oh, can you believe all the homes that are for sale? Well, each one has a different story.
Yeah. Well, that's you hit on such a great point, how people talk amongst themselves and they just form this opinion based on a very small sample size. Like
and open house signs too, Pat. You see more of them now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You couldn't get a whole open house to save your life in 2021. You'd
Oh,
see a
yeah,
listing
after
come up.
COVID.
Hey, can I hold an open house? I'm sorry, we're already under contract. Crap.
Yeah. Yep. Which,
And
like
now
I
if you
said,
get
it
an
both.
open house, you got to put the signs next to all those political signs, and there's no room.
Yeah, like you said, you turn a negative into a positive and say, hey, this is at least there's some stability to the, there's some sanity to the whole, even though I think it's going to be more of the same going through the year. This is going to be the year of the no fun year again, like last year. I think it's a grind out type of no fun zone. It's like, okay.
Well, I like where we're at right now. Jessica, what do you think?
I love it. Buyers get to pick and choose. They're super educated. They don't have to feel pressured. I think it's great. It's a normal market.
I'm sure somebody's cursing on
years.
I'm sure somebody's cursing on the other side of the computer saying, yeah, you love it, but prices are still elevated. And the problem is there's just nothing in the future that's gonna, people are waiting. It's just the same old for the last couple of years. And I'm seeing people that are moving that need to, that want to move, need to move, but now like you said, we talked the last couple of weeks, people are finally realizing, okay, rates are not going to probably move down. Let's just we got to do whatever we need to do and just be done with it.
Well, the Airbnb argument is still out there. Good amount of Airbnb, good riddance to them. They're not going away. Airbnb had good earnings call like 2 weeks ago. They're doing okay. Much to the demise, everybody said. Now there's different legislation coming up city by city. Sedona is one that's trying to clamp down. Scottsdale has had some different rules and stuff come up, and people are not right now going to get rid of their Airbnbs because they're not making money, because many still are. But it's a city by city thing.
Even if they make a decision, even if they make a decision like that, it's not a decision that's gonna just cascade everybody to sell their rentals, whatever happens. There's nothing there that's going to cascade something immediately.
Well, the last time we looked at it and took the total number of Airbnbs that we had and said if they all went on the market tomorrow, we would get up to normal amount of listings, maybe.
Yeah.
Oversaturated in 85254, he says. How many are in 85254? I haven't looked up that number. So, Jessica, do you see a flood of Airbnbs anytime soon?
Nope.
I know people would like to see it because that's such a good product. If somebody calls and wants to list their Airbnb, they sell quickly.
They do.
So they won't flood the market because they're a great product. They come with remodeled, they've got furniture with them. I mean, those are easy to sell.
They are. There's been one in the last 30 days that I don't know, I've shown probably 200 homes in the past 30 days. And I've had one VRBO and it sold over list price. They didn't take the furniture, but so the homeowners are having it shipped back up to Washington. So 1 out of 200.
So 85254, he says they have over 3,000. Do you know where that zip is? I don't know where that is. 85254. Let me see if I can. We're live here. We can do this. 85254. That's Scottsdale. Yeah. Well, Scottsdale, what really those aren't all single family homes. So when you look at the total number of Airbnbs, included in that are rooms. Somebody's renting a room in their house, a casita, condos, and single family homes. So I would pull up and look and just sort it for single family standalone homes. I think you'll find that number's considerably smaller because Scottsdale's also oversaturated with condos. But just looking at the total, there's always devil in the details.
Yep.
So
it's the truth.
But, all right. Well, it was great having you two on today. And are you doing anything over the weekend? You going to go out and sunbathe or anything?
Hey, maybe that's the number one plan now. Gave me an idea.
I got a couple of spots on my body. I go to the dermatologist, so I'm not sitting in the sun. I think I got some precancerous spots on my body, so I You won't see, I mean, my face looks red, but it's just like I do have a red face today for some reason.
Well, you
But,
don't have your golfing face today. Sometimes you
I've been
get on
golfing.
and
I've been
I
golfing.
can
No.
feel it from this end.
Yeah. So,
You go, I went
Well, Mark-
golfing. So,
there's gonna be next week. There's gonna be some next week. There's gonna be some looking on the calendar. There's gonna be some Feds talking Tuesday. Actually Monday, Tuesday. You got some Fed talk there, and then you got Fed about 1, 2, 3, about 4 or 5 Goolsby's going to be talking. You're going to be from Fed speaking. Then Wednesday the market's closed, so there's housing permits on Thursday, jobless claims for June. You know, just existing homes. Nothing earth shattering like the CPI or the producer price index PPI. So that's why the market's going to be kind of benign in the next couple of weeks, I think.
I'm getting kind of dizzy over all the numbers myself. So,
Yeah.
so you hear them dissect them, then you start listening to the analysts, and you just like, I just want to just crawl into a little ball, and I'll read about it.
I think, like I said, you look at the numbers, but then you got to look, the data turns into trends turn into psychology, as I said. And basically now we're in this psychological market. Everybody's waiting for the Feds. But overall, I think the market's starting to realize, okay, we might only see one rate cut. I think we'll probably see it after the election, before the end of the year. I mean, that's my best guesstimate. And, depending, at least you could see the inflation numbers kind of subsiding. We still have inflation. People don't realize, 3.5%, over the last 3-4 years, that's cumulative. That's just not, that's cumulative. I mean, or, keep adding on 3%, 3%, 3%, 3%. So, but I think the psychology is being built into now we're seeing this psychological time with rates. And I think rates are, they'll soften up. I think if you do get closer to the talk of a rate cut, that'll probably be thrown into the markets. The 10-year will respond to that once again, probably about 4, 5, 6 weeks before the announcement. So,
yeah, and I mean, they're definitely doing a good job of telegraphing any announcements now.
Yep.
And they, of course, they keep repeating it's data dependent. But that's the guy that's speaking. He's that's one guy. So the bond market is kind of calling their bluff a little bit right now and pulled rates down, and they're being a little more optimistic about lower rates than he is. But there's arguments on both sides. It says, well, if he keeps them high for too long, we're going to have things fall apart. We may not get that soft landing that he's hoping for. And what are the consequences of a hard landing? It's ugly. So, you get that. Everybody wants that price to come down, but, let's hope if prices do come down in real estate, that it doesn't take everything else with it like it did in 2008, which means, you didn't have a job. You couldn't buy a house. The price is finally right, but you were unemployed.
Yeah.
It's like Slop Second here says, I'm definitely in the houses are overpriced group trying to get a place in Prescott. Love Prescott. And it's been slowly coming down. So far, the seller has dropped the price $350,000. We're getting close. Have you offered them a price that you are comfortable with, or are you waiting? Because that's a different strategy. You think, Jessica? I mean, it's when some people wait for them. You're muted there. There you go.
It is a different strategy. And I just had a buyer in a home today that said, well, it's not where we want. We should wait. And my answer was, you don't know what that seller's thinking. They've been on the market for 60 days. They haven't made a price change. Maybe they just need an offer, and it'll help them motivate, themselves to make a choice. You've said this lots of times. Buyers choose the price, especially right now when we're shifted into this buyer's market. So it would make sense to me if you're a buyer and you're wanting something at a certain price, let them know.
Yeah, Slop, what's the price range you're looking at? You're saying you're within 100K. That's getting pretty close. And so I think as long as you just keep the an offer is an open invitation to negotiate.
Mm-hmm.
I had a guy come into an open house I was holding once. This is a few years ago. And he goes, well, I'm going to wait for the price to come down on this one. I go, well, then everybody else will be attracted to it as well. So why don't you just offer them a price now and start negotiating? Now, I said, okay, well, that rarely works. You know, you're going to be home. You're going to be looking at the computer every day, waiting to see. You know, tell them what you're willing to offer them. It may be insulting. It's okay. The agent goes, you know, I'm insulted. All right, well, let me go back to the buyer and see hey, he doesn't like your price. Okay, well, I'll wait. Well, let's keep the conversation going. And, you know, and then call back in a week. Hey, if you had any other offers, I just want to see if you're in. Well, your offer still sucks. I know. But let's see what we can do. Eventually, if it's sitting there a while, they'll go, well, they may be offended, but they're willing to take a peek at it. So it's not a game. You just have to, I mean, you know, Pat, look what we did down in Maricopa with that open door home.
Yeah. That was
what'd that take us? 6-9 months?
It was like 6-9 months, and you're like, they'll come to us, and then the client was like, "Are you serious?" Yeah, you're kind of like the old bull versus the young bull. You're the old bull, like that. We'll wait. Sure enough.
Yeah, I kept saying, well, that one's probably going to fall out at the inspection. Let me give you a call in 10 days. Then I call, yeah, it fell out. Okay, all right, and they come down 10 grand. No, that's not far enough. She made a cash offer. Sorry, Pat. At slop second, I said I don't know for sure. Cash offer. Don't want a loan for anything over that, but considering it. So okay, so Pat, you say there's a chance.
There is a chance.
That's an inside joke, Slop. Yeah. Whenever we tell Pat somebody's getting the house for cash, you go, he has a fit.
Oh well.
All right, guys, I'm going to cut you loose. Thanks for joining me. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
Father's Day.
Hey, thanks. Take care. See ya.